Welcome, everybody, and those that might be watching online. It's 1 o'clock. We're returning from recess from our morning session. Amanda, could you call the roll, please? Here.
Here.
Here. All righty, we've got one item on the agenda today, and it's queued up in front of us. I guess IRE and CORE to talk about the Spring Valley substation in the future here. Do you have anything?
Pardon me?
Did you have anything to introduce it, or did you just want to jump in? All right. Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, commissioners. Good afternoon. My name is Derek Holscher. I'm with Burns and McDonnell. We're a consulting firm that's been brought on board to assist CORE Electric Cooperative on the Spring Valley substation and transmission line project. So appreciate the time. Glad we were able to get into a board meeting here to kind of introduce the project to you here at a high level. Still kind of in the early phases here, but wanted to get ahead of you before any applications get turned in and before we kind of reach out to the public and start that effort. So yeah, if we can hit the first slide, we'll jump right into it here. Just wanted to give you a quick introduction to CORE Electric Cooperative. You may know them better as IREA. They have since rebranded and changed their name to CORE Electric Cooperative. So they are a nonprofit with a 5,000 square mile territory in 11 counties here in Colorado. They are the largest rural electric cooperative with more than 160,000 members. Here in Elbert County, they have just over 9,000. They're headquartered down in Salida, but they also have 3 district offices in Bennett, a new service center there, Conifer, and Woodland Park. So that map there just kind of outlines their service territory there. Jumping into the project itself and a little bit of the project need. The project consists of the construction of a new double circuit 115 kilovolt transmission line and 2 new substations, which are going to be called Spring Valley and Outback. The new transmission line will interconnect the existing Kiowa to Brick Center 115 kV line, which was just constructed back in 2019, and I believe was in front of you for approval just before that. The interconnection point on that existing transmission line is going to be just south of County Road 174. Like I mentioned, we're in the early stages here, kind of doing the substation siting and the transmission line routing. Currently, we have about 90 different criteria that we're looking at to help us, those could be opportunities or constraints to help us kind of route the transmission line. We are considering the quarter-mile setback from subdivisions as well as PUDs, as well as trying to minimize the amount of the line that's on ridge lines. So looking at those carefully. But the main need for the project is to provide additional capacity and reduce the outages in the area. The existing substations, we'll have a map here just after this, around the area are at maximum capacity. So we need some additional support to, accommodate that current, not only the anticipated growth and development, but the current development that's in place in the area. And then ultimately it will improve the overall distribution service in the area too. So hopefully this will show up okay on your screen there. Some of the print may be a little small, and I got a pointer here that could maybe help us a little bit. But this is the study area that we're looking at. Oh, excuse me. In the red area right there. These are the kind of areas we're looking for the Spring Valley substation. And then to the east, we're looking at the future Outback substation. And this purple line right here going north and south, that's the Kiowa Brick Center line that we'll be tapping into. So as you can see, the study area here, kind of around the perimeter, there's transmission and substation facilities, but in the middle, there's nothing. So we need to start, that's where we're kind of heading with this project, to fill in the gaps there. You might be familiar with some of the developments here. There's Elkhorn Ranch up to the north, Independence, and Miller Ranch kind of down on the south portion, just north of Elizabeth. So those are some of the developments that we're trying to accommodate, including the Spring Valley Ranch, the further development of that subdivision. You can see on some of these substation locations, like Elizabeth, Kiowa down here, we're looking at anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8 miles, even further away from the study area. these existing substations aren't really meant to serve any load that's more than 5 or 6 miles out from the location. The quality and the just goes down after that severely. So that's why we're looking to kind of fill that gap in, because those substations are basically at their capacity. If you look at Elizabeth down here, they're rated for 40 megawatts with 25 megawatts in service already. So they like to keep that number at about half in case they need to switch loads to the other transformer. So you can tell by some of these other substations that they've exceeded that 50% limit. So they are indeed at capacity. The closest probably substation to the area is Elizabeth, and that one is in place, really not meant to serve anything north, mostly development to the south and the town of Elizabeth itself. So another reason for siting a couple new substations up in this area. Could probably jump to the next slide here. Thank you. This is the study area itself. We've kind of zoomed in a little bit here. You can see County Road 29 here. 174 is up here for reference. Sun Country is right here, the development here, and then Spring Valley Golf Course is right over here. So the two substations that we're looking to site are out back here on the east side. And this is kind of what we call the load center for that substation, where that's the most optimum place to put it to serve the most development economically and feasibly. And then on the west side, we have the Spring Valley substation location. So the idea is to connect the, like I said, the existing Kiowa-Bennett line, get into the Outback substation, and then run it over to Spring Valley. These locations are a little bit in flux. We have some preliminary locations shown right now, but like I said, we're still in the process of nailing down those locations. If you want to go to the next slide, I guess. This kind of gives you a little bit of idea of the preliminary routes that we have so far. We have this purple line going along County Road 174. The green one that's running along parcel lines kind of right through the middle of the study area. And then we have an alternative down here on the south too. And then trying to weave our way through here and up to Spring Valley. What you see there in green are the existing subdivisions. And then in the blue is that quarter-mile setback for any PUDs, and then the purple is that quarter-mile setback for the subdivision. So we're trying to thread the needle right through here to avoid having to apply for a variance, but we'll find out through public outreach and what the public, their concerns are about the project. We may have to look at getting into applying for a variance, in particular in this location here, maybe in this corner, and then possibly down in this area too on the north side of Spring Valley Golf Course. So we wanted to, make you all aware of that. I know formerly IREA had been in front of you, or at least the Board of Adjustments, I should say, in the past to get variances, and it's kind of a difficult process. I understand the Board of County Commissioners is the new Board of Adjustments, so we wanted to make you aware that this could be something we approach you with to get a variance for the project. This map doesn't have all of our constraints on here. That we do have some cultural, environmental, biological, various other criteria that we're looking at. It's just not shown on this map here. It gets a little too congested. And for the substation sites, access is really a good key. That's why we're kind of zooming in right now on this site right now that's on a County Road 174 in the intersection of the transmission line. Easy access in and out of the substation in any kind of weather conditions. Once you start moving away from a main access road, it gets very difficult to access the substation in inclement weather. So that's one key point we're looking at for these substation sites. Next one, as you can see, this red polygon in the middle, orange polygon in the middle, is something that we recently were informed of as a new development, the Deer Valley subdivision. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it yet, but we've been in touch with the developers for that and plan on, working with them on how we can make the project work with their project, since it is kind of right in the middle of our pinch point area we were trying to thread the needle through the variances. So we'll be working with them to, like I said, see what we can work out for a substation location, as well as, routing the transmission line through that development. And this is just kind of an indication of how quickly developments can pop up. So we wanted to kind of get this thing moving and get the application in front of you sooner than later to get approval before more of these developments pop up that could, hamper the project. I think the next slide we can get to just kind of shows the Deer Valley subdivision, closer look here and a kind of a concept plan. Right now, we're kind of eyeballing the kind of southwest and southeast corners for that substation. It would be Spring Valley. So we kind of shorten the route a little bit. We're not going to go completely far to the west as we had initially proposed. But we do like to keep it a little bit closer to the Spring Valley development, because one of the more expensive parts of development is bringing distribution from that substation to the users. And that's usually falls back on the developer and is a significant cost. So trying to site that closer to the load or the development will help, keep those costs down for the developers. So the transmission line then from the previous map would basically be coming up from the south here, and we would look at either running it along the north side of County Road 174 through some open space here. They also have some planned commercial development here that would hopefully keep it somewhat further away from the residential to the north. Or we could also look at moving that transmission line to the south side of 174. In that case, we would then be looking at probably that variance to get for that transmission line. One other key point here is we would be working with the developer on the substation side, at least, to get some landscaping or berming in place to help screen the substation from the public. So we'll be having those discussions as well as trying to site the substation. And then ultimately, if we can work with the developer to incorporate public facilities or public utilities into the PUD, we may have a way to bypass the variance process if we are able to agree on a substation site and a route for the transmission line, get that kind of wrapped into the PUD. So those are 3 or 4 main topics that we're going to be talking with the developer about on the project. I think that's all we have on this slide. Last one, is just kind of give you a heads up on some of our next steps here. Like I mentioned, we're going to be talking with the Deer Valley and Spring Valley developers on the routing and the siting for the new facilities. We'll then be looking at scheduling pre-application meetings for the variance if we have to, as well as the land use permitting, which we are assuming will be a 1041 permit, which I understand has, upon approval, you can determine the kind of length of the approval. So it's not necessarily only good for a certain amount of time. So we may have to work with that due to the timing of when these facilities plan to be constructed. So after the pre-application meetings, we'll work on wrapping up our siting study. Then we're going to approach the public with a couple open house meetings, one to help us fine-tune the siting study, and then probably one more before we head into submitting the application, just to solicit that public comment and include that with the application. After we submit the applications, and assuming all goes well and we get approval, the next step would be land acquisition. In the meantime, we were probably going to be approaching landowners to get options for the transmission line route and the substation sites. And then if the applications are successful, we would then purchase those either in fee or an easement. So, and then the construction time frame we're looking at for the Spring Valley sub and the transmission line is probably 2024, maybe bleeding into 25, and then Outback is a little bit further out, 2028 and 29. I know that may seem like a little ways down the road, but like I mentioned earlier, with the developments popping up, we wanted to get in front of this and get it approved well in advance of any other developments in the area. I believe that is it. Open it up to some questions if you have any. I'd be happy to answer those. or I might open it up to Core if you guys have
Yeah.
anything else you want to add to it? Or are you feeling good? Okay. Just wanted to make sure I covered everything. Kind of a lot in a short amount of time, but like I said, we're early in it, so we hope to maybe keep in correspondence with you all as things develop before we get our applications submitted.
What, what sort of timeline were you looking at to get to actual permit applications?
To getting the application submitted, probably towards the tail end of the year, maybe first of next year.
Okay.
Still need to kind of fine tune the application, but we do want to make sure we hit the public and give them the opportunity to comment. I know holidays are also kind of a tough time to get things through too, so we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, and like I said, I appreciate you trying to work within the setbacks of potential future subdivisions, but everything is a potential future subdivision, so.
Right.
As long as you're talking with folks that.
Maybe just a question for you all. Have you had any variance applications come before you recently, and have there been any success with those?
Not for power lines.
Not for power lines, yeah.
We've had quite a few in the last year, but they're mostly been, unbuildable site envelopes or things that had to be shifted around. But like I said, I think, I can only speak for myself, but I think the setback, from subdivisions, in my mind, is more to preserve what people purchased. If it's a future subdivision, you can work with a potential developer. Nobody's going to be buying a home based on your time frame. Your lines will be in long before somebody's considering a property purchase. So.
Right.
It'll be an existing condition for them
Sure.
versus
Right.
something being run through afterwards.
Yeah.
Just of your routes, I like the green one that stayed well away from existing development, but understand a lot of that. There's a lot of other considerations there. So.
Sure. No, appreciate that. I think, like I said, we'll definitely try to avoid it if possible, but if the resources and if we even get public input that pushes it towards a variance area, that's where we would probably come before you to look for that. But definitely, that's top on the list there.
I doubt you'll see a lot of people coming out that want them right next to them, so that kind of
Absolutely.
pushes them towards the undeveloped tracts. Anything else?
Yeah, the only comment I have, I'm not familiar with Deer Valley. I've heard rumors on the street, but I haven't seen any. We don't have a formal application or anything like that, yeah.
I believe they held one community meeting, and that's the last we've heard. So.
Yeah, I think they may even be earlier in the process than we are too, so I'm glad we were able to find out about it at least and kind of start those conversations now before things get too far down the road. Okay.
I think we're good on this unless staff has questions or comments.
Okay.
No? Seeing none, I think we're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you much.
Thanks for
Appreciate the time.
getting us some information. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You bet. Thank you.
So that was the last item on our agenda for the day, so I'd take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. It's 1:19. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.